The first sign that something had changed was the silence. Elias Mercer noticed it while standing in the long crystal corridor outside the council chamber. The place was always quiet, but this time it felt different, heavier, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Normally, there would be a faint hum of thoughts brushing against his mind. The Kepri did not speak aloud much. They shared feelings, impressions, emotions. It was never overwhelming, just a gentle presence like standing near a calm sea. Now there was nothing. No warmth. No curiosity. No familiar awareness of the queen observing from afar. Elias checked the time display on his wrist implant. He had been summoned 3 days ago. Every time he arrived, the meeting was postponed. At first, the court officials had offered polite explanations, astral alignments, internal deliberations, ceremonial delays. But today, no one came at all. He was being avoided. Elias leaned against the smooth wall and let out a slow breath. He had served as Earth's envoy to the Kepri Accord for almost a year. In that time, he had learned their customs, their silences, their strange honesty. The Queen herself had once told him that humans were loud in ways they did not understand, not because of sound, but because of feeling. She had sounded amused then. That memory made the silence feel sharper. A Kepri attendant finally approached, its tall form moving with careful grace. Its face was unreadable, as all Kepri faces were, but Elias sensed discomfort leaking through the mental field, faint and apologetic. "The audience will not occur today," the attendant said aloud, its voice soft and careful, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. Elias nodded. "I understand." It was a lie. He did not understand at all. He turned and walked back toward his quarters, his footsteps echoing gently on the polished floor. As he moved, he tried to replay his last meeting with the Queen in his mind. Nothing had gone wrong. The negotiations had been calm. They had spoken of trade, of shared research, of future cooperation. At the end, as always, they had lingered by the wide viewing window, watching stars drift like slow fire across the dark. She had asked him about Earth, not about governments or defenses, but about people. About families, about why humans celebrated endings as much as beginnings. He had answered honestly, because that was the only way he knew how to speak. Maybe that had been the mistake. In his quarters, Elias stood by the window and looked out at the Kepri homeworld below. It was beautiful in a quiet way. Vast oceans of silver blue stretched between continents shaped by gentle curves instead of sharp lines. Cities shimmered like living glass, grown rather than built. Humans would have filled the sky with ships and noise. The Kepri preferred stillness. On the fourth day, Elias stopped waiting to be called. He walked through the palace without escort, ignoring the subtle signals of concern from guards and attendants. He did not push. He did not rush. He simply went where he knew she would be. The observatory lay at the highest point of the palace, open to space on one side, shielded by invisible fields. The stars there were closer, brighter, as if leaning in to listen. She stood alone at the edge of the platform. Queen Sirith did not turn when he approached. Her presence was restrained, carefully folded inward like a flame hidden behind glass. "You are not supposed to be here," she said quietly. "I know," Elias replied. He stopped several steps away, giving her space. "But I couldn't keep pretending I didn't notice." There was a long pause. Stars drifted slowly beyond the barrier, ancient and patient. "I did not wish to hurt you," she said at last. That surprised him more than anything else. "You haven't," he said. "Not directly." Her mental presence flickered, sharp with something like regret. "I have avoided you," she said, "and that is a kind of harm." "Yes," Elias agreed softly, "it is." She finally turned to face him. Her eyes, dark and reflective, held the light of distant galaxies. When she looked at him, Elias felt the familiar sense of being truly seen, not judged, not measured, but understood. And yet there was fear there now. Among the Kepri, fear was rare. "Why?" he asked. She looked away again toward the stars. Because proximity changes outcomes. Elias frowned slightly. Everything changes outcomes, that's life. For humans, she said. Yes, he waited. He had learned that silence was sometimes the most respectful response. When my kind bonds, she continued, we do not do so lightly. It is not a choice we can undo. Emotion does not fade for us, it deepens, it overrides. She closed her eyes as if remembering something painful. Empires have ended because of it. Elias felt a slow chill settle in his chest. You're saying attachment is dangerous. It is fatal, she said, to leaders, to civilizations. He thought of human history, wars fought for love, disasters caused by obsession, but also recoveries, rebuildings, forgiveness. We survive it, he said quietly. She looked at him again, and this time her gaze was intense. You survive because you can let go. Elias shook his head. No, we survive because we don't. That made her pause. We carry it, he continued. Even when it hurts, even when it costs us, we don't erase feeling, we learn to live with it. Her mental presence trembled just slightly. That is what frightens me, she said. Elias took a slow step closer, careful not to cross an invisible line. You've been avoiding me because you're afraid of what I represent. Yes, she said. Then, more quietly, and because of what I feel. The words hung between them, fragile and dangerous. He did not push. He did not ask for clarity. He waited, heart steady but heavy. She spoke again, her voice almost a whisper. Because I would love you if I didn't. The sentence was simple. The meaning was not. Elias felt the weight of it settle deep inside him. He did not smile. He did not move closer. He did not retreat. That doesn't sound like something to run from, he said gently. For you, she replied, not for me. She turned fully toward him now, her presence opening just enough for him to feel the truth of her words. There was no confusion there, no hesitation, only restraint held tight by fear of consequence. If I love, she said, I will choose you over all else. Not because I wish to, but because my mind will demand it. My people cannot afford that. Elias swallowed. And what about what you want? She gave a sad, almost human smile. What I want is irrelevant. That's where we differ, he said. She studied him closely. You would risk your species for personal feeling. No, he said. I would trust myself not to lose who I am because of it. That answer unsettled her more than anger ever could. You believe control is possible, she said. I believe responsibility is, Elias replied. They stood together in silence again, stars turning slowly beyond them. The gap between their worlds felt vast and thin at the same time. I will continue to avoid you, she said at last, for now. I know, he said, but I'm not leaving. Her eyes softened. Humans are persistent. We have to be, Elias said. It's how we're still here. As he turned to leave, he felt her presence reach out just briefly, like a hand hovering close but not touching. Elias, she said. He looked back. You are dangerous, she told him. Not because you conquer, but because you endure, he nodded once. We don't always enjoy it, but yes, we do. He left the observatory knowing something irreversible had already begun, even without a single touch, without a single promise. And far above the Kepri world, the stars continued to watch, silent witnesses to the moment when avoidance became recognition, and fear quietly admitted its name. The days after the observatory meeting passed slowly, like time itself had decided to move with care. Elias did not see Queen Sirith again, but he felt her absence more clearly than before. It was not just that she avoided him. The entire palace seemed quieter, more restrained. The gentle mental presence that once flowed freely through the halls was now controlled, shaped, as if the Kepri were holding something back. For the first time since arriving on the homeworld, Elias felt truly alone. He continued his work as envoy. He attended councils. He reviewed trade routes. He listened to long discussions about science and shared exploration. Outwardly, everything remained stable. The Kepri were calm, polite, efficient. But underneath, something was shifting. Elias noticed it in small ways. Officials hesitated when speaking to him. Some avoided direct eye contact longer than usual. Others watched him with curiosity that bordered on concern. It was as if he had become a symbol of something unnamed, something the Khepri had not decided how to handle. One evening, as artificial dusk settled over the palace gardens, Elias walked alone along a path of soft light. The plants there responded to thought, gently opening and closing as minds passed nearby. Tonight, they barely moved. "You are causing disturbance." The voice came from behind him. Elias turned to see Counselor Thren, one of the oldest members of the Accord. Thren's presence was heavy, layered with centuries of memory and restraint. "I'm not doing anything different," Elias said honestly. "That is the problem," Thren replied. They walked together for a moment in silence. "The Queen's restraint is under strain," Thren said at last. "Your species does not understand what it asks of her." "I never asked her for anything," Elias said. "You exist," Thren replied. "That is enough." Elias stopped walking. "Then tell me what's really happening." Thren studied him carefully. "The Khepri have never faced a species like yours. You form bonds quickly, yet you do not dissolve under them. You experience loss, yet continue. For us, emotion is not a wave, it is a tide." "A tide can be learned," Elias said. Thren's mental presence sharpened slightly. "That belief alone is dangerous." Before Elias could respond, Thren continued. "The Queen has isolated herself to prevent resonance. But isolation has consequences as well." "What kind of consequences?" Elias asked. "The Accord is faltering," Thren said plainly. That made Elias' chest tight. "Because of me." "Because of what you represent," Thren corrected. "Other species watch. They sense imbalance. They fear stagnation as much as collapse." Elias thought of Earth, of humans arguing, failing, recovering, of systems breaking and being rebuilt because people refuse to stop caring. "Then maybe avoidance isn't the answer," he said. Thren did not disagree. That silence was more telling than words. Later that night, Elias could not sleep. He stood by his window again, watching the distant lights of the city below. He wondered what Sirith was doing. He wondered if she stood somewhere similar, looking out at the same stars, holding herself still by force of will. He wondered how long anyone could do that without breaking. The crisis did not arrive suddenly. It arrived quietly, like most real ones do. A minor allied species requested mediation. Their emotional regulation protocols based on Khepri models were failing when applied to non-Khepri minds. Social cohesion was weakening. Productivity was falling. Leaders were withdrawing. More requests followed. Elias read the reports carefully. He saw the pattern immediately. The Khepri system worked for the Khepri because it matched who they were. Other species were different. They needed connection, expression, release. They needed something closer to humanity. The council chambers filled again, this time with tension. Queen Sirith did not attend. Her absence was no longer subtle. It was a statement. Elias stood when it was his turn to speak. The mental field of the chamber pressed against him, curious and cautious. "Your system is elegant," he said simply, "but it is not universal." Some counselors reacted with discomfort. Others listened closely. "Humans learned long ago that suppression doesn't remove emotion," Elias continued. "It only drives it inward. Eventually, it comes out in worse ways." "This is speculation," one counselor said. "It's history," Elias replied calmly. "Ours." Thren watched him carefully from across the chamber. "We argue," Elias said. "We grieve, we fail, and then we talk about it. We adapt, not perfectly. Never perfectly, but enough." A ripple of unease moved through the mental field. "You propose instability," another counselor said. "I propose resilience," Elias answered. The session ended without resolution, but the idea had been planted. That night, Elias felt her presence again for the first time in days. It was faint, controlled, but unmistakable. "Why do you persist?" Sirith asked, her voice touching his mind like a careful question. Because stopping would be dishonest, Elias replied silently. She appeared at the edge of his quarters, standing just inside the doorway, as if unsure how close she was allowed to be. The space between them felt charged, not with danger but with meaning. "You are changing things," she said. "They were already changing," Elias replied. "I just named it." She stepped closer, then stopped. Her control was visible now, a tension in her posture, a careful narrowing of presence. "You speak of resilience," she said, "but you do not see the cost." "I do," Elias said. "We pay it every day." Her eyes searched his face. "And you still choose it?" "Yes." "Why?" she asked. Elias considered the question carefully. "Because the alternative is emptiness, and emptiness doesn't protect anyone, it just delays the pain." She closed her eyes, and for a moment her restraint slipped. Elias felt it then. The depth of her feeling, the intensity of her awareness. It was vast, overwhelming, and painfully beautiful. She pulled back instantly, breathing unevenly. "This is why," she said softly. "If I allow this, I will not remain impartial. I will not remain whole." Elias stepped closer slowly, giving her time to retreat if she needed to. She did not. "You won't disappear," he said. "You'll change. That's not the same thing." "For my people it is," she said. "Only because you've never tried another way," Elias replied. That was the most dangerous thing he could have said. Silence stretched between them, not avoidance this time, but consideration. "The council debates your proposal," she said at last. "They consider using humans as emotional mediators." Elias blinked. "They do?" "Yes," she said. "Because you endure without dominance, you connect without consuming." A faint, sad smile touched her expression. "You frighten them and you give them hope." She turned away, walking toward the doorway. "I cannot yet choose," she said. "But I am no longer certain that avoidance is wisdom." As she left, Elias felt something settle inside him. Not relief, not victory, possibility. Far above the world, messages spread across the accord. Other species listened, observed, waited. The Khepri had ruled by restraint for generations. Now, for the first time, they faced a future shaped not by what they feared to feel, but by what humans had always carried without breaking. And the galaxy leaned closer, watching to see whether love, once forbidden, might become the key to survival rather than its final change did not come with alarms or urgent calls. It came with a choice. Elias sensed it before he was told. The palace felt different again, but not empty like before. This time the mental presence was open, cautious but flowing. The Khepri were no longer holding everything tight. They were listening. He was summoned to the central hall at dawn. The hall was vast, shaped like a slow curve rather than a sharp circle. Light filtered in from above, soft and even, touching every surface the same way. Counselors stood in quiet groups. Allied representatives waited along the outer edges. There was no tension in posture, but there was weight in the air. At the center stood Queen Sirith. She was not seated on the elevated platform as tradition demanded. She stood on the same level as everyone else. That alone told Elias how serious this moment was. He took his place across from her. Their eyes met briefly. There was no avoidance now. There was caution, yes, and depth, but also clarity. The hall quieted without command. "The accord is at a turning point," Sirith said, her voice calm but carrying easily. "We have guided stability through restraint for many cycles. It has served us, but it is no longer sufficient." A ripple of reaction moved through the gathered minds. Not fear, not agreement, attention. "Our methods," she continued, "fail beyond our own kind. They fracture where we remain whole." Elias felt the weight of countless thoughts focusing on him. He did not shift. He had learned that humans earned respect here not by dominance but by steadiness. "We have observed humanity," Sirith said, "not for their technology, not for their reach among the stars, but for how they endure what would undo us." She turned slightly toward Elias. "They feel deeply," she said. "They attach, they lose, and still they continue." The words were not praise, they were acknowledgement. The council has debated, Seereth said. The outcome is not unanimous, but it is decisive. She raised her hand, a simple gesture, and the hall responded with silence. We will adopt a new structure, she said. Human envoys will serve not only as diplomats but as emotional mediators. They will guide shared bonds between species where our methods fail. The reaction this time was stronger. Surprise, concern, hope. Elias felt his breath catch just slightly. This is not surrender, Seereth said firmly. It is adaptation. She paused, then added words no Kepri ruler had spoken before. And it requires trust. When the hall finally dismissed, the representatives left slowly, many deep in thought. Elias remained where he was. Seereth approached him once the space was clear. You changed the course of the accord, she said. We did, Elias corrected. You chose. Her gaze softened. Yes, I did. They walked together toward the observatory without escort. No one stopped them. No one needed to. The stars were bright that cycle, clear and distant. For a moment neither spoke. You broke tradition, Elias said gently. I bent it, she replied. It will survive, he nodded. So will you. She studied him carefully. You speak with confidence. I've seen humans fail at change, Elias said. We still survive it. She stepped closer, not abruptly but deliberately. This time she did not hold her presence back. Elias felt it fully. It was not overwhelming now. It was focused, honest. I have feared this feeling my entire life, she said. Not because it is weak, but because it is strong. Strength doesn't have to destroy, Elias said. No, she agreed, but it demands responsibility. She looked out at the stars. If I allow myself to feel fully, I will never be the same. That's true, Elias said, but you won't be less. She turned to him again, and there was no restraint in her eyes now. I still love you, she said quietly, and I have learned that love does not have to end us. Elias did not reach for her. He did not step back. Then we'll carry it, he said, like we carry everything else. Her presence brushed against his, not merging, not consuming, just there. A connection chosen, not feared. Below them, the Kepri world continued its quiet motion. Across the stars, messages spread. Species listened, adjusted, tried something new. Humans did not conquer the galaxy. They taught it how to endure feeling alive. And for the first time in generations, the future did not feel like something to be controlled. It felt like something to be shared.